Welcome to the Behind the Brand segment of Conversational Currency. I'm your host, Shadeed Eleazer. Now, Conversational Currency is the fastest growing platform that focuses on the value and importance of social skills for business in a digital era. Behind the Brand is our segment of Conversational Currency where we discuss the stories behind the success. Now, today, ladies and gentlemen, our special guest is none other than Monica Kretschmer. Now, Monica is Calgary, Canada's based entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Canadian Business Chicks, Women of Inspiration, and the Nest Foundation. Now, Monica, in my conversations with you, your vision and your why is so crystal clear. You are an extremely visual person in terms of how you describe what you want to see in the world. Take us to the moment where you first discovered your why and how it changed how you saw the world.
Thank you, Shadeed. You know, I have to make a confession for just out of the gate. I think initially as entrepreneurs, we start with our great big juicy vision. And I say great big juicy vision because that is exactly what I've referred to out of the gate was my big juicy vision, because it wasn't here. It was always really, really massive. And having started a business from like a seed and a concept to see it grow has been really quite a treat for me to be on that journey. But I have to say my why has evolved in what if people, if you ask people what their why is, as they get further on down the road, they realize that it gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So the why I started Canadian Business Chicks was at that time I was rebuilding my life. And, if you want, I can take you right back. 2007, I was married. I was a new mom, and I had what everybody thought was the picture perfect life, from the outside looking in, nice house, nice car, the revenue properties, dressed nice, just visually what everything looked as a good life, but behind closed doors it wasn't so great. And I've been married for about 15 months, and my relationship was toxic, and to the point where you get stones thrown at your head and you're like, ow, that hurts. I'm like, another one, ow, that really hurts. And then another one where they're like, it's a boulder this time, and that if you do not get out of the way of that boulder, you're gonna die, period. So I literally, I left my relationship with my 7-month-old baby and became a single mom overnight. And without even hesitation, you just know that that is the right thing for you to do. So a bag in my hand, leaving overnight, and my journey begins. I call that my 7-year journey, because getting through that and leaving and making that choice to leave that relationship, I thought was the hardest part. But what I failed to realize that the hardest part was the journey, that 7-year journey, because that's when I stepped into my power, discovered I have core values, discovered my power as a woman, as a mother, and really what drove me to start my business eventually was I wanted to rebuild. I'm like, I have been tested beyond tested. What am I going to do with the knowledge? Do I pick up and continue through? Or do I realize that I have a difference to make? I have an impact to impact others. And looking back at the road that I traveled on, we all have a choice to do A or B. And so what we do with our choices that really lead us to the next. My why was about rebuilding my life for myself and my infant son. He's now 11 years old, but, I was just tested this past weekend, Shadeed, and the why came up again. And it's like, why did you start a women's networking community? And you know what? It was really, I felt very vulnerable in my response. But yes, it's to rebuild. Yes, it's because I stepped into my power. Yes, it's because I had this big vision how I can help and support and make an impact in the community and affect others. But on a personal level, my why was to validate myself, to feel valued. And, back, in 2007, I can honestly say one of my core values is courage, confidence, commitment, and integrity. But I got to tell you, I didn't have a whole lot of confidence back in 2007. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have stepped into that marriage to begin with. So it's really interesting looking back about that why. Why are we actually doing what we're doing? And it's a lot deeper. And sometimes you have to scratch that surface and go even deeper. And sometimes the awakening comes, right? Like I honestly, I had a little bit of a moment just this past weekend when I was asked why again, and it shifted somehow to go just another level deeper for me. And that was because I wanted to validate my worth.
Very in-depth insights. Now, Monica, you mentioned on that 7-year journey, there were moments of adversity, and you also mentioned that there were core values that were discovered and developed. And there are moments along that journey where you were tested and had to go back to the well and kind of figure out, why am I here and how can I move forward? Please share with our audience how those moments of adversity have shaped the woman that you are today, and how those experiences give you the fuel to keep taking steps forward.
So, it's really interesting because I truly believe that we all have our core values, but it's not until that we're actually tested that we put to thought into what they actually are. When we look at defining moments, when I looked at the defining moment in my life, when I had literally the power of positive thinking got me through, I chose to think that my life was great, even though around my world everything else was crumbling. I chose to think that I was worthy of a new opportunity. I chose to believe that I could make a difference out there. And it was the core values, and going back to my core values, like I was like, what got me through this? What got me through all this adversity? And literally 4,800 hours, Shadeed, over 7 years, all the way up to Supreme Court. Like literally, I was a single mom. I had to live in my mom's basement for 4 years of my son's first years of his life. Number one, stepping out as a single mom and owning that. And yeah, that took a little bit of confidence, right? Because, people tend to judge, why is she a single mom? They don't look beyond, here's this woman with a young baby. And, and to all the single moms out there, it's just like, hats off to you, because you honestly do so much good work. And I compliment every woman that's doing it on their own, because I know how hard that is. But it's through that adversity that you realize what are your strengths and what has actually kept your head above water. And for me, it was stepping into those core values that I realized, I had to have confidence to keep my head up, to keep positive. I had to have a hell of a lot of courage to, not just pull the covers under my head, because there was no option. The option was not to go backwards. It was always to look forward and to always think positively. Integrity, and I'm going to say my lawyer taught me that piece of integrity. She could have chose to stay with me or not, and she believed in me when I didn't believe in myself and kept working with me. And that integrity piece had always resonated with me. I'm like, she was such a pillar of my inspiration, and later became Woman of Inspiration, my awards down the road. But all of these core values, I realized, all played a piece into my success overturning that adversity table. And I look back at that even today and think, what a gift. Because had I not been tested, I probably would not have done as much soul searching as to why and what carried me through that hardship during my life.
Excellent insights. Now take us back in the time machine, timeline of life, to young Monica. Who were your earliest influences, and were there any glimpses in your childhood that revealed to you that you would be on this path today?
I have to say, I really admired my grandmother. She was she's the farm girl. She lived in the farm, and she wasn't your typical grandma. I mean, she wore overalls, and my highlight was being able to, I know this is kind of this is like a childhood memory, but we go to the farm for the summers, and my grandmother would pull on those like coveralls. And, like she had this massive, massive garden, like a city block size, like, and she used to manage that herself, right? Like she was a hard worker, and she was funny, and, like she did this quirky things, like things that piqued my interest, like she would take us out for rides. She didn't have a driver's license, but she used to just gun her. Like, we had the best time driving with my grandmother, who'd never had a driver's license, but still would not be stoppable, right? She would go and drive and take us to the potato field, which was, through the fields away, with her coveralls. And we'd get there, and then we'd get out there and pick potatoes, do all sorts of things. And then she'd like take these little frogs and stick them in her pocket. I always remember. So she was like quirky, she's quirky and fun and hardworking all together. And, she just did things that weren't the typical things that you'd expect grandmothers to do. And she was a little bit of a daredevil too. I mean, she used to, try and sneak these things in, put the frogs in the sink. This is kind of a funny thing, but, she tested the boundaries in whatever she did, whether it was, driving without a driver's license. I mean, heck, where are you going to go on a farm, right? But she just loved life and tested boundaries, and she was really authentic, hardworking. She wasn't an entrepreneur by any stretch, but she instilled some really good core values in me that always stuck with me. And it's just like, I still think, how crazy it was. But I mean, I used to play with frogs in the kitchen sink, that my grandmother used to get. I mean, those are silly memories, but they go back to me. And it's just, I don't even know why I'm telling you the frog story, but it is what it is. Everybody has like a childhood memory, and you're just, I don't know what it is. The lights maybe are shining so bright, but yeah, I think nothing but great things about my grandmother growing up. And I have to say, a lot of entrepreneurs are born into entrepreneurial families, and I was not one of them. I really have no idea. I've always been an entrepreneur, like 7 years old. Like, I've had these crazy ideas. I never knew where they came from. I was just born out of a really middle-class family that was really hardworking. And, I always had these wonderful, wonderful ideas, and always loved to try things different and new. But, entrepreneurialism, I thought I had to go to school for it, to be honest with you. The courses came up, and I, went out of the gate and tried different things in an interior design business. And people were telling me, here's this course, there's a course for entrepreneurs now. And I went to the course, and I'm like, it's not my thing, right? Somehow it's like a sideways shift where I think it's in you for some reason. And not necessarily is it born into your family. I think certain people are born with it. And I was born with it. But it wasn't necessarily something that was passed down through generations. People inspired me to be hardworking. And of course, those are values that I love to have. But for me, it wasn't something that I grew up a lot about. So, clear path.
We have a few things in common, Monica, in that, number one, in you sharing your story, my mother I'm the product of a wonderful lady, and I know she's watching this now, and she had to make some huge decisions in relationships and stepping out on faith and being a single mom herself. And in your story, it made me think back to those times and looking at it from a different perspective of, wow, what was she facing, in that she had to make sure that I was okay while facing her own fears. And oh my goodness, my grandmother is such a huge influence in my development, and she was a trailblazer herself, very fearless, very much into cooking and gardening. So lots of great, rich childhood memories in that your story reminded me of. Now you mentioned, oh, please continue.
No, and Shadeed, I do have to say, my grandmother was 60 when she passed away, but it was interesting to know that she actually herself was a single mom. And I didn't put the pieces of the puzzle together until, only, maybe five years ago. There was so much on my plate to think about. And I'm like, my grandmother did that in her era, right? And we think about all the judgmental things that are happening even now to women that are raising children on their own. Think about it when our grandparents and our parents had to do that and walk in those paths, right? Like, wow, it's incredible. When you say trailblazers, they are really trailblazers, and they do whatever it takes to get the job done. So that's where our core strengths come from, is through seeing that.
Every decision that I make in every public appearance, I always try to make my grandmother proud. That is something that most people don't know. And I think that's important, to honor the ancestors and the people in our lives who helped us to become who we are. And there's so many, and just listening to your story, there's so many examples of that maverick, that trailblazer is within you. And sometimes in the hustle and bustle of life, it can be forgotten. But at moments where you have to go back to the well and re-examine, it's always the recollection that, wait a minute, I come from this. And that can provide the strength for not only for you and I, but for those who are watching or listening to this broadcast in their struggles and crossroads in life.
I think it's really interesting to know that a lot of, times have changed so much. You talk about that human connection, and times have just changed so much where, you talk about going to the farm as a little girl. Who does that anymore, right? Those memories are so precious, but they are building blocks, and it's almost like when my son gets home, I'm like, okay, we're going to have to plan a little bit of a field trip somewhere, because it's not about the video games. It's about the really honest relationships that we've built with others that are built on the foundation of family. And I think that's really what those values stick with us, and those are the ones that we carry forward into our futures. And that's actually one of the pillars of success too, right? It's that connection and that ability to connect with others.
Oh, it's everything.
Authentically. And tell the crazy stories, right? Everybody has the crazy stories. And I think you can relate to people with that, just like you and I are relating. You're like, I have a grandmother that, well, as you're talking, I'm thinking about my grandmother, right? We have the power to do that with others. So let's share, let's peel back that curtain and talk about those things that really matter to us.
Very important. Now, another confession is that my path into entrepreneurship, I'm never a person who shies away from this topic. It was the scariest decision that I've ever had to make in terms of facing the unknown and having to make decisions within that. Now, take us into the moments where Canadian Business Chicks was in your mind and it had to come into reality. What were your initial thoughts in launching this organization, and how do you feel it has transformed as you've become more mature as a CEO?
It's really interesting, because I think that's $1 million question everybody wants to know is, what made you jump off that cliff? Right?
Yes.
And it's literally a cliff, and anybody that is on that road has started a business, they know that defining moment. And for me, I felt like I had been tested, and that was the 7-year journey that I talk about with my son. Literally, I eat fear for breakfast. I embrace fear. If I'm not scared just a little bit, I'm not growing. And that's one thing that I learned along that journey. And when I knew that I had an opportunity Like literally I had 8 months where they couldn't sue me for 8 months. And I took that as a go girl. That's a sign. You got to take that spot and you got to make it happen. What is the worst that's going to happen to you? I think you've been through it. So don't worry about it. Just go. And I knew that I had a gift to offer. I threw all the cards on the table. You know, I love doing events. I love giving back. I, had this great big juicy vision for connecting entrepreneurs and professionals and, kind of bringing groups together that normally were all siloed. And I thought that is where the magic happens. And I didn't see it happening. So I just dove in and literally I decided it wasn't going to be a committee. I saw other organizations where it was almost like a committee and you kind of dip your toes in and do it part-time. But I knew that right out of the gate that I had something to contribute on a much bigger, deeper level. And literally I thought, if I'm going to make this happen, I've got to scare myself completely. And I've got to jump in with both feet. And I'm launching the business. I quit my job and literally launched my website, got the business plan up and running, all my branding, literally in 2 months. It took me 2 months to get ready. And I jumped off. And I still remember that I was in Canmore, Alberta. And where I picked to launch was at the Rocky Mountain Soap Company. Race, which attracts about 2,500 women. And I thought, this is a great market. There's 2,500 women. And if I get 1%, great big lofty 1% of that 2,500 women, that means that I have a community to start building. And so that's exactly what I did. And I haven't looked back. But I got to tell you, I was so fully invested. There was no other opportunity, right? And as you build when you talk about vision and, committing to your vision and being razor sharp focused, I still remember my business cards where I had my mission statement and it's still on my business cards. So I look at it every day. I had my whole dining room wall was full of all my sticky notes of everything that I had set out to accomplish and everything that I wanted to build our community to be. And I didn't veer off that. I kept on adding more, rearranging, and then, but I kept it very clear what I was working towards. And so as people were saying, geez, I don't get it, or, focus on one, just go for, I'm like, no, I want diversity and collaboration. I thought that as being the secret sauce, and it is a secret sauce, but even as little as almost, like 4 years ago, people were like, diversity? You would think it's a buzzword now, but it certainly wasn't then. But I think that you know that moment that you're ready and you're scared as hell. You have to be. And if you're not scared, you're not willing to fight hard for it. If you don't have the passion, that's what's going to carry across the finish line, really, is you have to feel it, you have to breathe it, and you have to live it. And you have to keep focused right on your vision all times.
Yes. Now, for the lady that is watching this right now,
yes,
who looks at Canadian business chicks and they listen to your powerful message and your vision, and maybe their confidence in their message is not as refined, or maybe they have no idea where their next step may be, or maybe they're in a situation where they can't look left or right, it's just overwhelmed. What do you have within the organization that will help the lady who is watching this right now, who is maybe stuck in trying to go into business, has no idea about business, or is just who looks at the organization and says, I'm not good enough to join?
Well, for one, I specifically built Canadian Business Chicks so that every woman has value. I truly believe that everyone has value. The shared values are what binds us together: the courage, the confidence, the commitment, the integrity. And I think what's very cool about our organization is that we build authentic connections. Everybody's at a different place, which is awesome. That means that you have your cheerleaders, your sponsors, your supporters, your coaches. Everybody's at a different place, but everybody can relate to the place that you're at because they were there at one point. And I left the door open because I think that probably one of the most beautiful gifts that we can actually truly give each other is to learn from others. So we've started a mentorship program as well. So we have mentors and mentees. And, you know, the business and life thing is married, right? So whether you're a professional and you're rising that corporate ladder, or whether you're a business starting up, or you're, you know, scaling your business, mentorship is key. And I think that, you know, if you want to jump in and you don't even know where you are right now, you got to learn from somebody else. You've always got to keep growing. And there's so many amazing women out there that just want to share their knowledge with you. So that's something that we're really excited to be able to have to offer, is that not only do we have a business directory listing, because you need to have a platform. You should be visible. You know, be visible about your business. Be visible about what it is that you want to do in life, and open the doors, connect with others. You need a support system. And then there's the mentorship program as well. And we're soon actually going to be, we're in a beta phase right now, starting our mastermind, because that's another layer to the whole piece, is getting a group of like-minded trailblazers and game changers as well, that will help fuel the fire and keep growing. So there's so many different ways that I just get all excited about, and it's around connection, you know, and because we're online, literally, it opens up the floodgates to the potential and the opportunities to learn from others from different areas and from different regions. So it's really exciting. So I'm like, everybody has some value. Everybody has value. You step back to raise the kids, you jump back in. We want to make sure that that environment is open for you. You know, it's magic. It really is.
Monica, please share with our audience your favorite story of transformation within the Canadian Business Chicks. Now, the names can be changed to protect the innocent and the vulnerable, but please share your favorite story of transformation of someone who has come into the organization and maybe they started at one place and now here they are today.
You know, there's so many people that are touched. It's hard to pinpoint just one in particular. And I think that, you know, one thing that I think that a lot of the women can relate to is, I'm quite an A personality. I get out there. I have no trouble meeting people at all, but there's a lot of people that actually are quite shy. And I think that through what I notice the most is that when people come into the Canadian Business Chicks community, we call it the nest, which is a safe environment, and it's non-judgmental. And I think that probably one of the most amazing stories is seeing the women that are actually finding and stepping into their own power just because they feel that they have a voice and they're validated and they're able to grow within the community. And you don't have to be this extrovert out there, you know, like everybody's got their own speed. And I think one of the most beautiful things to do is watch people grow within that environment, you know, stepping outside of their comfort zone. And, you know, we have people speak at our events. And, you know, one of the ladies that shared with me afterwards, after we had a panel, she says, I was scared to death of public speaking. And she goes, you know, I sat up there, and she goes, my knees were kind of, you know, shaking because I had never actually had a microphone in my hand. I'd never been on a panel before. And she was sharing her story of her business, how she started. And at the end of the day, I'm like, are you kidding me? Because I would have had no idea. If you just did not share that with me, I would have had no idea that was your first time, or that you had this like huge fear of speaking in public. So I guess that's one example of how people step out of those comfort zones. And by sharing that information, we were able to talk about it, and a couple other hands went up, you know, like that's me as well. So I think just creating that safe environment has been probably one of the most beautiful things, is that people feel vulnerable, not vulnerable but vulnerable in a good way, that they're able to be real with somebody to get their message out. And through that connection, people relate, and it opens the door to so many other relationships and possibilities for business and partnerships.
Excellent. Now, Monica, if all barriers were removed and just the vision itself, please share with our audience your vision for the future of your organization with all barriers removed. Where do you see the peak of its potential going?
Well, I've always thought connecting women globally would be pretty darn cool. And you know what? It is not really, it's not that far away. You know, if we think about the power of connection and connecting women with shared values globally, it just actually gives me goosebumps. And I'll tell you how this came to be. So we have the Canadian Business Chicks community, and we have the pillars are connect, empower, learn, and celebrate. Our celebration piece to our community happens to be Woman of Inspiration. And if you remember the 7-year journey that I had, I literally dated my lawyer for 7 years. And we dated 7 years, 4,800 hours. So she was actually the one that I built Woman of Inspiration for. She got a bouquet of flowers, but I thought I wanted to say thank you in a much larger way. So I built Woman of Inspiration to say thank you to her. And what I realized, Shadeed, is that I'm not the only one with a Woman of Inspiration. You have one, and just probably every single person listening to this podcast has somebody that inspires them to greatness. So with that, we launched our second year and doubled and had categories, you know, from mompreneur, entrepreneur, game changer, trailblazer, millennial leader, you know, supporting the arts community, cultural ambassadors, like 10 great categories. Last year we tripled it and added another category, so 11 categories. But that is the secret sauce, is we can't celebrate women enough. And that is attracting global attention. So can you imagine celebrating women around the world and connecting those thought leaders, visionaries, business leaders, and putting them together in masterminds and mentorship programs, and providing the opportunity where they can share their message and have others learn from them? Like, doesn't that just send goosebumps?
Yes, I see this community, and the reason I asked this question is because this conversation is a time capsule. So we will revisit this moment in time and watch your path and your growth and your vision come to fruition. It is, everyone, as you mentioned, has a powerful lady in their life that is dynamic and amazing, and often behind the scenes or overshadowed by numerous factors. And providing the platform to celebrate and recognize it's an idea that will be global.
And, you know, I have to say, Shadeed, I've learned so many valuable lessons going through this. And one of the lessons that I've learned is that the women that are at that level, that are really making an impact in the world, they have no idea of the ripple effect that they're causing around them. They're so busy in the bubble working on their passion that they have no idea how many other lives that they're changing around them. And I really would love to share that message, because it's so cool, because it really inspires the young women in our world, even the young men in our world, you know, just to live with passion and find your purpose and keep building. Like, it's really infectious. It really is. So when you're around and you surround yourself with those people, it just, having that power that somebody else has done it makes you believe that you can do it as well.
Yes. Excellent points. Now, we've discussed a lot about purpose and mission and focus, but you have a song that the lyrics are so powerful. I've had the opportunity to have you walk through the lyrics in person, and the message is so powerful. Can you please discuss On Purpose and share some of the lyrics and how, especially how these lyrics resonate with you, whether it's tough times or times where you need to step within your own purpose to the next level, please share with us On Purpose and what it means to you.
So the On Purpose song came from, my book's not written yet. I have a book, but it's just not out of here yet. So before the book came the song On Purpose. And it was really the journey that I took. The times, how do you know when you're on purpose? And I talk to so many people, and it's like, you're on purpose if you've fallen down and you've got back up again. When you're on purpose if you actually are scared to do something, but you do it anyways. And, all of the roads that we've ever taken in life, they all play a bigger piece. And sometimes you just have to wake up. Like, the song is so beautiful the way it says, you don't know how far I've come. And I'm going to read this. They don't know how far I've come, right? You and I are meeting for the first time, but you have no idea my journey, what it took me to get to this level, or how passionate I am about that. And everybody has a different story. Everybody's road is just slightly different on that journey to purpose. And what's so beautiful about it is that I truly believe that we all have the power to write our own story. And it's like a daily mantra every single day. You write that story every single day. The dreams come true every single day. But you have to believe, and you have to take action, and you have to take massive action. But just because you've fallen down doesn't mean that's where it ends. And I think that's probably the most important thing for me, or for anybody else that is kind of living their life on purpose, is the fact that all of the setbacks and challenges, they're all there for a bigger purpose. They're all there, a part of your journey. They're supposed to be there. They're lessons that we're supposed to learn from to take us to that next level. So this song is really about stepping back, looking at the roads that we've traveled, knowing that it's not been easy the whole way. And anybody that has ever done something really, really amazing in life, they have a reason for that. There's a string, and we're all connected in that string, and all the events leading to it are connected. And I know I can speak from experience. When I was a flight attendant, I was a flight attendant for 13 years. And, somebody had said to me one time, they said, Monica, when did you start your speaking career? And I said, I started my speaking career at 37,000 feet as a flight attendant. But if I looked back then and I look back now, and I see that was just training for some other life journey that was ahead of me. It's really cool, right? I think we can each look back and look at those life experiences and where we are today and go, okay, where are we in that journey? What am I learning now that's going to help me later get to where I need to go? And it's that song kind of just brings everything full circle.
Yes. Now, you mentioned your book. What my audience would love to know is, please share with us your one book that has changed the way that you either view the world in terms of major beliefs, or transformed your view on life at that time. What is your one book recommendation?
Okay, so I have got to say, I do believe in the laws of attraction. And this is one of my favorite books of all times, and it's The Secret. And it's really interesting, but I'm now working with Lisa Nichols of The Secret, because I want to learn from the best of the best. And, I had an opportunity to sit down with Lisa just this past week, and I shared with her the impact that The Secret made in my life at the time in 2007, when I had just literally, one day I'm giving clothes to the women's shelter, and the next moment I'm in the women's shelter, and, with my 7-month-old baby. And I remember specifically that was when The Secret came out. And I had to change my belief system from victim mode to survival mode to life is abundant and life is grand. Like, I had to visualize that to get me out of and keep my head focused. I had a baby support. And it was really the power of that law of attraction and reading that book. Like, I hung on to that. And I danced every day. And I would bring wonderful, positive mantras every single day. And that's what got me through. So that book actually was a very key point in my life and I revisit it often. I think it definitely made an impact in my life and my son's life. And so I always go back to The Secret. It's good stuff.
Where can the ladies in my audience who want to assist you in making Canadian Business Chicks global learn more about your work, your mission, and your ideas?
So they can go to my website, CanadianBusinessChicks.com, of course. And I'm definitely looking for women that want to play a bigger game. I'm looking for women that are the leaders, the movers, and the shakers that can see that big vision that I've got, that want to play with the global leaders, that want to celebrate and recognize women, that want to, connect with them. To grow, to nurture, to learn. And they can contact me through Canadian Business Chicks. Actually, they can sign up. They can just sign up. I would welcome, somebody saying, hey, Monica, I live in such and such state, but I would love to do that here. And can you help me get that started? Because I am going to be looking out for those women to make that happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been treated to a delightful conversation of overcoming adversity, of strength of vision, perseverance, and empowerment. My guest this evening, Monica, has a beautiful mind, a powerful purpose, and a vast mission that will take her from Canada to around the world. And on behalf of Conversational Currency, we are excited to be along for that journey. On behalf of Behind the Brand, this has been Conversational Currency, where we discuss the value and importance of social skills for business in a digital era. Thank you for tuning in.